All right, everyone, we should be live as usual. No problems on my end. I think we are already live on Rumble. Let me make absolutely sure of it. The Rumble rants are working. I've got to make sure that the video feed actually grabs the video. Takes a little time. I mean, you press live, and sometimes it goes live, and sometimes it refuses to do so. I'm doing the best that I can here. Technical difficulties for a moment, I suppose. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. Okay, go down to the rants. Triggers McNickers with the first super chat of the day. Why do I get the feeling that the only difference between the funky cocks and coof jabs are their labels? Oh no, I think there's been a monkeypox vaccine for years anyway. No, it's just they haven't had to mass deploy it. It's probably safe, but I mean, how necessary is it? Just don't go to the next piss orgy and you shouldn't have any problem. They could have cut the head off the snake, really, a month ago by simply telling people to keep it in their pants for a few weeks and say, look, yeah, we know it's orgy month, basically, but, could you take one for the team and spend 4 weeks without bloodletting yourself onto people's genitals or drinking piss and stuff like that? Maybe you could just have a little bit of self-control for a short period of time. By the way, for those of you watching cross-platform, well, on YouTube, there are two pinned links if you're looking at chat. And they are to polls that I actually created. They're to straw polls, actually. And they are on the preference for a GOP nominee for the 2024 election. One of them is with Trump on it, obviously. And I left Rand Paul off of that one because Rand Paul has effectively made it clear if Trump is on the ballot, he's definitely not. I thought about leaving Cruz off because he's effectively insinuated the same. Problem is, so has DeSantis. So there's one poll, and then the other one is assuming Trump does not run. So he has a health issue. He decides not to run. The J6 committee prosecutes him, which I think is a remote possibility. But and then that's among people assuming that Trump is not in the running. So pinned links, if you're on YouTube, in the chat, they're there. On other platforms, links in the description. I want to have as many people vote in these polls as possible because that gives a better overall result. I'm trying to do what actually Ben Shapiro did. He polled his audience and people wanted DeSantis. I'm seeing CPAC and similar polls. I think the Houston Chronicler poll showed Trump way out ahead. Mostly it's Trump well ahead in polls. I wanted to see what clankers specifically, what my audience specifically thought with regards to this. I wanted to see the differential. I expect Trump out in front. I wanted to see what the margin was of people that support him versus especially DeSantis, and in his absence, who is supported. It seems to be a pretty clear fight between two people in the absence of Trump, which is Ron DeSantis and Rand Paul. I'm Team Rand myself. I would be overjoyed if he becomes the Republican nominee, but the polls are there. Sarah K saying the first poll isn't working for me. Did I do something stupid? Did I put it in wrong? You watch it. I probably did. It's probably a fault on my end. Did I, just a second here. Let me go to the actual live page on YouTube and see if I put it in wrong. It's always possible. Let's see. Oh yeah, 404, page not found. How wonderful. Thank you very much, YouTube. Jesus Christ. Okay, everyone, just wait a second here. I'll unpin that and I'll see if I can figure it out. Okay, now I'll pin that. Now it's still giving me a 404. Did the first poll just stop working entirely? Just a second. Let me figure this fucking shit out. They took the poll down. That'd be funny. No, the poll's still working. Why the hell isn't the link working? Okay, we'll try it. We'll do this the hard way. Oh, for the love of God. Thanks, YouTube. All right, now will this one work? Just a sec. Okay, now it should work. That's the first one that works. Okay, yeah, now the polls are working. My apologies. For some reason, the first poll was not loading. They are now up now. So if you are on YouTube, pinned. If you're not on YouTube, or you are, cross-platform, links in the description to a pair of polls that I've done, one with and one without Trump for the GOP nominee. I'll also do one for the Democrats, potentially. See who clankers would prefer to be the punching bag for the 24 election. No cucks allowed. Please, people, stop asking if Styx will be on Tim Pool's show for the 1000th time. Peace and love. Peace and love. Ringo Star voice. Peace and love. Yes, I will definitely be on Tim Pool's show in the future, but I have to be in the U.S. for that because he only does in person. Watch, we'll get swatted while I'm there. Gerald Armstrong, do you think the Dems will misinterpret the reason why the GOP potentially screws it up? Say that people love CRT, wokeness, etc. Here's what I said this morning. Even if the GOP screws up, they still retake the House. It will still be a defeat overall for the Democrats. We're mainly looking at the Senate and state level races, I think, gubernatorial slots especially. But yes, they will misinterpret it. If the Republicans manage to self-sabotage McConnell style, the Democrats will get a big dick on them and they'll say, well, we've been handed a mandate. Yeah, we don't have the House of Representatives to pass budgets or to do anything regarding reconciliation, but somehow the people have spoken and given us a mandate. So we don't have to change our ways at all. It's not due to our enemy being screwed up. It's due to us being strong. Fire down below. Styx, what % chance would you say the Will Smith versus Chris Rock slap was staged? 99%, in my opinion. AA Commissar, have you heard the Alpha Legion has investigated the Alpha Legion and they've been cleared of all charges of heresy? Interesting. Justin M. went to Ray's Seafood on Friday per your recommendation. Their seafood chowder was unbelievable. Yes, if you are ever in the Hampton Beach area, definitely go to Ray's Seafood. And it's not just the seafood chowder. That really is the gem of what they've got there. They've got really good, if I remember correctly, calamari. Their fish overall is good. Nice fries, too. Also good atmosphere. I mean, it's right on the beach. You get the sea breeze and all that shit. And supposedly haunted, which always helps. Long Don John. F's in the chat for Ted Cruz. He's behind Mike Pence in the Trump poll. Yes, please do participate in both polls. I will remind you repeatedly until you fucking like it. I figure if there's 1,000 people watching live, and right now I think it's closer to 1,500 cross-platform, definitely I should have that many votes in the polls. We'll even do some updates during the stream. Isn't that exciting? Kevin Street, your new tech exclusive about the monkeypox crowd being hung upside down like bats had me in stitches. Cack and clank. Yeah, you're not getting half of the good humor if you're not watching me on at least one new tech site, BitChute, Rumble, Minds, or Odyssey, because I can't be nearly as edgy on YouTube. So you should definitely subscribe. By the way, 97,000 subscribers now on Rumble and flying upwards so fast. I mean, it might not even be the end of the month before we hit 100,000 subscribers on the platform. They will be having little awards that you can put on your wall at some point. I did ask about this specifically, and it was confirmed that is in the works at some point in the future. I want one. I want a Rumble award. I want to have all the awards together and then become delusional and talk to them like they're also my children. Cosmic Surgeon, Styx, in your estimation, when does life end? When the brain dies, you're dead, effectively. When brain activity stops and can't be revived in any way, that's when you're dead. I do not believe in any form of permanent death for the truth self. The body, in my opinion, is literally a meat machine. I do believe in the spiritual. I've had my own experiences. OBEs and so forth, notwithstanding. Let me look at these polls before we go to any of the news. I'll just keep these open. Fuck it. You know, it's taking up more tabs, but I'll keep it open to the side. And the first one, is it loading? Yeah, okay. What are the results so far? Yeah, we got plenty more voters. Over 1,200 people have voted in the main. Unofficial 2024 GOP nominee poll. Donald Trump out in front at about 85%. Ron DeSantis at 12.4%. Other in third place at 1.6%, and then you have 5 votes for Nikki Haley, 2 votes for Mike Pence, 1 vote for Ted Cruz, and none for Chris Christie. That'll be in flux. Now make sure to participate. Again, I should see another 1,000 votes on here, so get fucking to it. In the second poll, assuming Trump does not run, Ron DeSantis is out in front at 53% roughly. Rand Paul almost at 40%, giving him a run for his money. Again, other unsure and not voting is in third place at 5%. And then poor Ted Cruz has 5 votes. Nikki Haley has 4. Chris Christie has 2. And for some reason, Mike Pence doesn't have any votes on here. I'm assuming that there are people that didn't vote in both polls throughout the morning. So get on it. And don't just share it. Don't just participate. Share it out cross-platform. These are straw polls, so you can share them out anywhere that you want. I want to get a broad cross-section of as many thousands of clankers as possible to see roughly the popularity of these different candidates among my specific audience. Shapiro, his audience prefers DeSantis. Not a huge surprise. With Crowder, it was closer, I think, but again, DeSantis managed to edge out. With the CPAC crowd, TPUSA, and certain others, Trump is way out ahead. And I'm wondering where Clankdom fits in. I see Rand Paul is doing pretty well as far as a backup if Trump doesn't run, and that doesn't particularly surprise me, by the way. Johnny Thunders, you clankers better actually vote. Yes, don't just vote here. Vote in the actual elections, too, if you're eligible to do so. But right now, a straw poll will fill some time. All you got to do is make a couple of clicks, my dude. The Grizzly, what do you think it would actually take for the Dems to go through self-reflection if it's possible at this point? It is possible. The problem is you have to get them so far as to do so. They have to lose in a spectacular fashion. So if the GOP punts, ends up under in the congressional ballot, and just retakes the House by 30 votes or something, the Dems will be congratulating themselves at the end of the night if they don't lose more than 30 seats. Sticks, Hexen, Putty Knife. The coup is complete and the toolbox is under commie rule now. You could have saved us, but you didn't. You left us for YouTube fame. Hope you can't sleep at night. I love your memes, my dude. Battle Elf. If GOP takes the House, how long till Biden is impeached? I think that if they have any significant majority, it'll be fairly quick. And he has done things that are impeachable. They'll do an investigation into the Hunter Biden deal-making thing. They'll declare him guilty. They'll impeach him. He'll be exonerated in the Senate, but he will have been impeached. I do believe that's likely. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor. I'm Greg Poems, and I ate this message. Doofily moofily, clank on. Where's the best place to find all your books? The Tarl Warwick's Books blog, which is both Blogger and WordPress, by the way. So yes, cross-platform. Please participate in the polls. We will go to news. Bill Maher slams America's fat acceptance movement as Orwellian. Supporters have blood on their hands. Maher called the body positivity movement a disturbing trend that enables addicts. Now, we'll preface this. If somebody has some sort of health condition whereby they can't really lose weight, they've got some hormonal disorder or something, and this is why I don't go around and like ridicule people who are overweight, you know, because it's not nice. I have no problem with that. They've got a medical issue. Maybe they even eat a restricted calorie diet. They exercise constantly. They just can't lose weight for some metabolic reason. But that is the minority of people that are part of the obesity acceptance movement. Most often it's people who are, they call themselves curvy, but they're not really curvy. They're fat, they're obese, and they're seeking to justify that. And I'm thinking, like, are we going to have a drug addict acceptance movement? Yeah, I mean, I really like heroin. I drink booze 3 meals every single day. It's perfectly fine. My liver is healthy at any size. My skin is healthy at any color, even if I fucking turn orange as a clementine and I'm clearly going to die in the next 6 months of liver failure. But who cares? I accept myself for the beauty that I am. In no other realm of reality do we really do this. We tell people, for instance, someone's depressed. They're like cutting and stuff. We don't have a cutting acceptance movement. We tell them, you know, I can understand you're depressed. It could be clinical, but, you know, try to seek help. You know, we want to help you so you don't die, so you don't kill yourself or end up scarified or something. We don't say, oh, it's perfectly fine. I noticed that there's no skinny acceptance movement for people who are anorexic. So if a person decides to not eat themselves to death, if they're Eugenia Cooney, throw them under the bus. Unacceptable. Should be deplatformed. Oh my God. Terrible message for children. If they're eating themselves to death by eating 5,000 calories a day, if they're a total feeder, then they're encouraged in this. There are people on YouTube that have millions of subscribers and literally all they do is eat enormous meals all the time. There's that one dude, I can't remember his name, and he always overacts while he's eating. Like, he'll take the food and he'll just be like punching himself in the head and smearing food all over himself and ramming it down his gullet and weird shit. There's some chick that does that. She was talking about how she's got like diabetes type 5 or something as a joke. And she's sitting there eating ice cream after ice cream scoop and weird shit. And this is blessed. You're not allowed to criticize these people for choosing to kill themselves. It is a form of slow motion suicide. Again, we don't do this with people who are smoking heroin. we don't do this with people who are guzzling whiskey by the gallon. We don't do it for anorexics or bulimics. We tell them to get help. We say, look, you're going to die. You do realize you are going to literally die, probably painfully. You weigh 5,000 pounds. You're going to have a massive heart attack. You won't even be able to get airlifted to the hospital. The helicopter won't be big enough. They're going to have to drag you there on a horse and buggy or something like that. And you're not allowed to criticize them. Maher is correct. And of course, it's broken clock syndrome. He's a neoliberal commentator. I like to think of him as more cerebral. He's sort of like Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is more left than Maher, I think, at this point. They're more cerebral. They are at least capable of having opinions that are reasonable. The funny thing is, this is considered newsworthy by virtue of it being politically incorrect. You're telling people not to eat themselves to death, and there will be people that are critical of you for it and saying you're being hateful. It's goddamn insane. There shouldn't be a fat acceptance movement. There should be a please try better movement. Get more activity movement. Hey, you clearly eat too much movement. There are starving kids in Africa. Send some of that food that you would have eaten over to Nigeria or Ghana or something like that. Let's read. Does the outro phase, that's about all, peace out, have any occult significance? No, it's just I got into the habit of saying it and it became a meme, so I'm not going to change a good thing when I got it. Brock Sampson, 71. Hey, Sticks, is it true the Western Wall is a satanic shrine? Also, I heard King Solomon was a practitioner of the dark arts. Your thoughts? There is well, not Old Testament. It's not in the Bible itself, although it's alluded to. There is a Judaistic story with regards to King Solomon building the temple using demons. It was not practicing dark arts. It was understood as him using the power of God to enslave demons to make the temple. And what it was a retroactive attempt to describe to the Jewish people, who hitherto had been largely scattered. They didn't build megalithic structures and stuff. It was very rural existence, migratory in many cases. How the fuck did we build this shit? Now, if you look at the Temple of Solomon now, it may be a Roman ruin, by the way. It's probably not entirely authentically built by Solomon, etc. But the tale was that I think it was the Archangel Michael had given him a magic ring to bind up demons and force them to do the labor, to hew the stone and so forth. And this was basically an apocryphal tale to explain to people that generally lived in squalor, as most people did at the time, how their ancestors had built this temple. There's also an interesting story about, I think it was Azazel. It was one of these demons, or Beelzebub, or Astaroth, or something, had been sealed up in a wineskin for being disobedient and buried under the cornerstone of the temple. And so one good earthquake, and I guess a bunch of demons fly out of an old wineskin from 5,000 years ago, and then the world is overrun by Astaroth again or something. But yes, it's not a satanic shrine. It's a Jewish site, but it may be Roman in construction. There's no easy answer to that. But there is that apocryphal story. Look up the, which gospel was it? It wasn't the Book of Enoch. I can't remember exactly. There are multiple apocryphal texts that deal with the Temple of Solomon. That leaf. Fat acceptance has only inspired me to lose weight since I don't want to be associated with people that blame everyone else for their bad decisions. Imagine like pride, with people that are doing drag with kids and rainbow dildos and stuff. Imagine like someone's gay and they're like, well, fuck this. I'm going to try to be asexual or something because I'm tired of this shit. I am sure that there are people that are like that. Jack Perry, Trump president, 1 term. 2024 DeSantis VP, 1 term. DeSantis president 28 and 32. Trump DeSantis turn Tampa Cuban historic area after Soros DA ouster. DeSantis would be a decent running mate. I would prefer Rand Paul myself. Again, links in the chat if you're on YouTube and in the description cross-platform. I do have 2 presidential straw polls. I want the opinion of as many clankers as possible. Yolk Nick is back. Hello, Nick. Done pumping iron. I don't know how much he can lift at this point. It's probably getting near Schwarzenegger levels. Tarl, my brother from another mother. Clankers must clank that like button. With the laws of thermodynamics, you think that provides some proof of life after death cannot be created or destroyed. I think that mentality is more of an abstract derived from the physical. I don't take up that line. I simply believe that the consciousness in that more abstract sense cannot be created or destroyed because of string theory. I believe that actually that this could lead to quantum immortality and be quite a bad thing, by the way. You end up dying over and over again, faster and faster, until you're basically an immortal mummified husk. I did make a video on this topic. That would be rather dystopian. What I feel is when brain death occurs, the spirit or the self, the true self that goes beyond the physical, that is more than simply the sum and substance of sensory, so sight and sound and so forth, the experiences and memories, is capable of inhabiting a new body. I base this partially on a simple dichotomy that I've spoken of. If the self, that is spirit, soul, whatever you want to deem it, is non-existent, there's no specialness to the self, it's just a machine, there's no reason that that self can't arise elsewhere, assuming that string theory is true. There's nothing to prevent it. It's not special. It can arise anywhere that it wants. And so it would still be you. To you, the passage of time would no longer be meaningful once you're dead. You'd simply arise elsewhere in a different form. If it is special, then that begs the existence of a cosmic entity, a god, goddess, pantheon, cosmic force of some intelligent nature, or at the very least, some set of laws that goes beyond the mundane, the super mundane, that is. In either case, you don't really die. That's my personal belief. Can be rather scientific when you think about it. And of course, there's matrix theory. We could just be in a video game anyway, so your death means nothing. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor, please plug my anti-woke sci-fi Kindle novel, The Last American by Ed Ronan. All right, you have been plugged. The Last American by Ed Ronan. It is an anti-woke sci-fi novel on Kindle. You should release a paperback of it. Trust me, my dude, by the way. Professor Plaguebat, a cutting movement? Tell him to cut it out. Now, talk about the sloganeering you can do with that one. Battle Elf, if evidence is airtight, will GOP senators exonerate? Yeah, the Senate will exonerate Biden if he's impeached. There aren't the votes to condemn him anyway, so it won't matter. Spider Eternal, how dare you say I'm unhealthy at 6'5" and 100 pounds? Yeah, that would be the opposite end of it. But that's the unacceptable end. If you're anorexic and you're too thin, it's a big problem. But if you eat yourself to death, if you're 5 feet tall and weigh 400 pounds, nobody's allowed to say anything because of this stupid id-pulse shit, even if you're killing yourself. Viking Woman 1988, I didn't see missiles fly to Poland on vacation. Michael Cricklow, have you discussed Kat Von D shunning the occult? No clue who that is, actually. Doofily Moofily, did you see that the FBI has training material for profiling that says patriotic symbols like the Betsy Ross and Don't Tread on Me flag are indicative of someone being a terrorist and extremist? Sick. That's not actually what it indicates. To be entirely honest, it is just taken as a possible indicator. So they're saying that a person with the Gadsden flag might be extreme. Well, they're fundamentally correct. The same is true if they have a DNC sticker, though. You don't see the RNC sticker, the DNC sticker, the Green Party logo on the list, and that's really the problem. The problem is that they're focusing on one small group of people, relatively speaking, like 2 or 3% of the population, and singling them out. It's not that they can't be indicative of extremism. A person can be, they're an ANCAP or something, and they believe in the sovereign citizen movement, and they're actively planning to go in a woods or something. There may be some extreme tendencies there, but they never focus on left-wing extreme groups. There are no hammer and sickles on that list. That's the problem. Rodzilla5332. Been following since you were on Matt and Blonde show wearing red lipstick. Found a kitten with partially degloved lower jaw. Surgery way more than I can afford. Clankers, please help. Give, send, go, /kitten. I cannot openly endorse that because I do not understand the situation. And of course, there are people that will do the shout out thing to get money, but I will take your word for it as a clanker that is indeed the case so people can make their own decisions. Ryan McDonald, USA. Would you want to see a Hitcher's Guide to the Galaxy 2 if they ever made one? My dad said the sequel was The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. Sounds very, very out there. My sort of thing. Daniel Harty, talking about temples, it's Tisha B'Av now, a Jewish fast day, mourning the first and second temple. Legend says they happened on the same day. Maybe. Josh, have Democrats created the American idiocracy? I think Americans are creating an American idiocracy. It goes a little bit beyond political affiliation. Jack Perry, combined Trump DeSantis, 93% total. Yes, check me. Trump is 69%. DeSantis is 24% from CPAC. Cruz at 2%. Tampa is Cuban, but Ybor, Tampa, LGBTQY+% lol. Yolk Nick again. We'll definitely have to have a one-on-one discussion on life after death, especially coming from someone who started as a Mormon and is now agnostic. Yes, I had forgotten to mention that. Actually, that is Nick's particular trajectory spiritually. Of course, I started out as more of a liberal Christian, became kind of fundamentalist, then abandoned that for atheism, then became a Satanist, and now I'm an occultist and pagan. Convoluted, isn't it? The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor. What do people think about the shadow people? I made a video on that subject years ago. I do not particularly believe in the concept. I think it's psychosomatic generally. Of course, there are weird shit that go on in graveyards, but it is very interesting how the spooky places always have other spooky things going on. I think that people may be putting the cart before the horse. Opinionated junkie. GOP can screw up. That's why I am gray-pilled. That's why I just remain nonpartisan. I'm not going to join the Republican Party. I'm a winner. Noel Watcher over on Rumble. If I can get it to stay high enough up to read it. There, I voted. Jesus Christ, Rumble. Come on. There, I voted. Stop your bitching. And then we have Dagnabbit32. Do you think the left going after Alex Jones is an attempt to try to demoralize the right? Mainly an attempt to demoralize content creators, in my opinion. Yeah, we're getting up there in votes. Make sure to vote, everyone. Links in the description cross-platform to the 2 GOP nominee polls. Donald Trump still at roughly 85, DeSantis at 12, other at 2% roughly, assuming Trump runs. If Trump does not run, DeSantis is leading Rand Paul 51-41, so it is a fairly close race between those two. Ted Cruz gets a couple extra votes, and so does Nikki Haley if Trump drops out. I know some people are mentioning I did not put Kristi Noem on here. I probably should have, but again, there hasn't been a significant indicator of an intent to run. Now we'll talk about the farmer protests briefly. The Farmers Defense Force, and I do not read fluent Dutch, although I can understand the general meaning. The Farmers Defense Force that is formed in the Netherlands is threatening considerable action at this time. The farmers, I guess, had a conference, and they're saying, well, trust me, establishment, the worst is still to come. We're going to take even more draconian action. We'll wait and see exactly what that is. I figured that was time for an update. Some people have criticized me for never talking about the farmer protests. I'm like, dude, I think I've made 2 videos and I've mentioned it in at least 3 different live streams by now. Give me a goddamn break. I'm not native to the Netherlands, so I try to not get too far into the politics, even if it affects me, because I'm a resident in the country. I'm not a full-on citizen, and a lot of the articles are in Dutch. Well, just because I can understand the basic meaning, I mean, I'm not gonna ask my poor wife to translate 5 different news stories just to weigh in on what's happening in the news. I mean, it's interesting. I support the farmers, and certainly there's been a lot going on for now quite some time. But you've got to understand it's more difficult for me to be knowledgeable in something that's happening in a foreign language. John Smith sent €2 without a comment. Thank you. Mr. Twisted Frenzy. Do any of your occult books delve into Celtic mythology? Yes, and actually in my compilation, which I think is listed under my works I can't remember I think it was in pagan religion. It has an entire section on that, an entire work. Verbatim. Opinionated junkie. Republicans simped for cinema and mansion. Razor right. Yes, Razorfist is correct about cinema, especially. Next story. Their children were killed by drugs found on Snapchat. Their activism could push Congress to act. Sammy's Law, or the Let Parents Choose Protection Act, is being drafted by Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which means that any reasonable person opposes it, adding to other legislative efforts directed at tech companies and backed by parents. Yes, little Jimmy bought drugs on Snapchat. So now we need more rules on the internet. Now, little Jimmy 20 years ago could have bought drugs off the internet too, going onto a chat room, fucking email spam, et cetera, et cetera. Why all of a sudden do you care about the issue? Since Democrats, of course, created a situation where there was the opioid crisis in part. It's because they want to crack down on internet free speech. This is effectively just a way to block out more people from hearing content creators. That's really all that this is. The acts... let me see here. Just a sec. Let's talk about fucking The draft legislation comes after years of activism from a community of parents whose children have died from fentanyl overdoses that followed drug deals facilitated on social media platforms like Snapchat, where drug dealers have found private venues to target young people. But those efforts have also been countered by some concerns from privacy advocates that worry that legislation could lead to overtly intrusive surveillance. No fucking shit. The whole idea is that tech sites will have to monitor things more, censor things more. I mean, the writing's on the wall. They don't really care if you overdose on fentanyl, even if you're a little kid. If they cared about that, then they would actually tackle the issue through decriminalization efforts, through differential policing, which is important, rehab for addiction, and they would go after China, which produces, virtually all of the fentanyl. They're not doing any of these things. They make too much money in China. They love the tech firms. They just want them to be able to censor more political dissidents. It's a think of the children sort of act, the same with gun control. Stephen Beck, hey, Sticks, single father of 2 kids under 5. I just wrote a book, Atheist Guide to Heaven, available on Amazon. Thanks, Sticks. Very much appreciated. Okay, another shout out. The Atheist's Guide to Heaven, which is available on Amazon. Not sure if paperback or Kindle. It's important to make sure for searching purposes. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, Boebert. We're going to talk about this. Boebert to take shot across GOP leadership's bow in CPAC speech. Disappointed too many times. Boebert suggests she will oppose Representative Kevin McCarthy's bid for Speaker if he fails to pursue policies she backs. Yes, Lauren Boebert is gunning after the lame establishment neocons. I support her completely. She's joined by many other people in this. You'll notice that the incoming MAGA crowd is fucking dwarfs the one from the last few years. MAGA had a good year in 2016. It had a good year in 2018. Overall, had a good year in 2020. This year, the midterm elections are going to see most of the House Republicans become MAGA. It is about time for Kevin McCarthy and people like that to be knocked aside. I would say the other person, Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell has been extremely fickle with his application of the Constitution. He's been less and less effective with regards to the rulemaking and Senate procedurism that he's usually good at. I think that he's getting older now, and he's simply not as adept at it as he used to be. He's even being outclassed by Chuck Schumer. It's time for him to go as well. It's time for Cornyn to go. It's time to get rid of all of the neocons. The Republican Party clearly has changed. They've abandoned the neocon ideal. They've become more of a working class party. They've been abandoned by the billionaires, so they have to be, I suppose. They've become more cosmopolitan when it comes to certain social and moral issues. I hope that continues. And certainly have adopted more economic populism. These are largely positive things. The Republican Party is stronger and it's better. It's more, I can actually vote for them and not hold my nose completely like I would have had to do 10 years ago. The Democrats are wasting away in a slurry of big money and scheming and, corporate neoliberalism with the worst aspects of socialism right now. This Lauren Boebert and people like her are the future of the Republican Party. It's not going to be John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell. Battle Elf. What happened to Salty Cracker? Did YouTube finally realize Congressional Committee named him a domestic terrorist? Oh, they did? Jesus. That was Fuentes. I thought Tim Pool got named by the J6 committee at one point. He had a field day with that one. Cold Warrior, buying drugs online is not a problem. Just ask Pfizer or Moderna. Major clang from the People's Republic of Massachusetts. Yes, the companies that actually got millions of people addicted to this shit, they escape any repercussions for the most part, except for the oxy makers, I suppose. And meanwhile, Snapchat needs to crack down. But it's totes for the reason of stopping little Jimmy from buying drugs. Yes, 12-year-old little Jimmy clearly is likely to obtain fentanyl off of Snapchat. That's really, really happening to a lot of kids. It's bullshit. Internal Genju. Have you seen any of the recent Jordan Peterson cropped into Command and Conquer memes? And what are your thoughts on his suggestions to everyone to be a monster and have that well under control? I don't think people should try to be monsters, but I haven't seen those memes. I can believe it, though. Next story. Progressives bullish despite mixed results in Democratic primaries. Morale-boosting victories were tempered by bruising defeats, but U.S. left-wingers feel the party's center of gravity is shifting. This could be the way the Democrats steal a defeat from the jaws of victory. The Republicans might fuck up and still win anyway by a significant margin if the Dems go far left. The left right now is boosted by certain defeats among Republicans, especially the establishment Republicans. But the long and short of it is this. The average American does not conceive of populism, of the MAGA way, as being extreme. It's parroted as being extreme by the legacy media and by the rich and by people that don't like it. They don't perceive of it that way. But the average American does consider socialism to be extreme. There is a huge differential. Sometimes people try to compare the two. There is no comparison as far as public opinion. I would say there's no comparison on issues at all, but opinion matters in a representative system. Socialism is very low ranked among Americans. And yes, that does include among the young. There are some cherry-picked polls where people presume that socialism is upheld by Gen Z. That's horseshit, really. Maybe on certain social issues, but not on economic ones, not once they get a job. If they can find one in the Bidenomic boomer economy anyway, that could be a problem in the future. Millennials are the peak of leftoidism since the early 1900s. Just to be clear, there were more socialists in the United States 100 fucking years ago than there are today. That was when it was a threat with bomb-throwing anarchists and shit like that, and subversion and espionage. MAGA populism, in the meantime, is reasonably popular, certainly popular enough to overhaul large swaths of the GOP. It's most of the GOP at this point is MAGA. It's no longer neocons, which again is very good. They're picking up slack from the slowly dying off Tea Party members, actually. If the progressives get their way and they run more candidates, the problem is that outside of deep blue areas, they can't win. But they don't care because they're going to target those areas and make that money. That's really, the socialists are in it for themselves, basically. The MAGA candidates appear to be willing to go through hell and constant abuse and often outright defamation just to be in office. Progressives don't have that problem. They are upheld and lauded as being activistic. They don't have to go through fire and steel or anything like that. They're mostly in it for their money. Dr. Zeodin. Why can't I find Live from the Bunker by Sleazy? Does he keep deleting them because of Mama Susan? I think he had a strike and deleted a bunch of videos or made them private. That's my belief, anyway. I didn't ask him about it yet. By the way, we have almost 3,500 people watching live. Pretty good. Keep those votes coming on those polls. Again, there are two presidential nominee polls. Links in the description, cross-platform, and pinned as a chat on YouTube. Next story. Manchin's disingenuous claim about the new spending bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, isn't just misnamed because it won't do what its title promises. It will likely make inflation worse. Yeah, any reasonable person knows this. If you spend hundreds of billions of extra dollars that you don't have because you're already deep in debt, you will inflate the currency. Unless you're getting it straight up from taxes, and Cinema carved out the one part that actually would have taken some of the money from corporate interests. Of course, I applaud her for that. It also would have harmed small businesses and people like me who might get into some form of entrepreneurship. Certainly the self-employed would get hammered. I mean, I agree with her decision, but it does make the bill even more directly insolvent. The idea of doubling the IRS and then recouping that loss over a number of years with more audits can only mean one thing, which is that they're going to go after political dissidents. Alex Jones will get audited. I doubt that Cenk Uygur will get audited, in other words. Tim Pool gets audited. Styx Hexenhammer gets audited. Will Hassan Piker get audited? Probably not. And it's just a grift. And the fact is that the bill would be insolvent anyway. And this is Wilbur John Coleman, professor of economics at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business. So Biden always talks about how all of these Ivy League economists love all of his plans. Well, here's one at Duke who apparently thinks differently. The fact is it's the Inflation Production Act. But you're not going to see that until after the midterms, which is why they timed its release specifically to be now. It's too close for the midterms for it to take effect beforehand. That's the whole point. Manchin just didn't want to do it last year or earlier this year when the inflation would show up before the election happened because he knew it'd be a disaster. It would wreck the economy. He doesn't care if the economy gets wrecked. He just wants to make sure it doesn't happen before the midterms. And Cinema doesn't care if the IRS has doubled, apparently, so long as it doesn't target our corporate buddies. Michael Cricklow. Kat Von D is a celebrity tattoo artist from LA Inc. A spiritual battle is taking place, is the quote. Also shunned witchcraft and macabre. Sent you a DM. Sounds like a boring individual. Shunning the macabre when you're a tattoo artist? All right. No more skulls allowed. They're a symbol of death. Canola Watcher 63. Krakalataka post on Salty. Yeah, apparently there's a Rumble post. If you're watching on Rumble, there is a restream post there that you can take a look at. So save that link. I'll have to look into it. Now we have another story. Kansas is not a bellwether on abortion. I actually agree with this legacy media story. This is from the National Review. They've become sort of the vanguard of right-wing legacy media at this point. As Ramesh Panuru noted in a post early this morning, pro-lifers in Kansas lost by a large margin last night on a ballot measure that would have undone a state Supreme Court ruling finding a right to abortion in the Kansas Constitution. There were people in the other live stream where I mentioned this the other day that jumped down my throat saying, but there's no constitutional right to abortion. We're not talking about Roe v. Wade and the federal constitution. We're talking about the Kansas state constitution. To be clear, there's a difference between the two. I probably should have made it more obvious which one I was referring to. My apologies, but I wasn't talking about the U.S. Constitution. Abortion supporters have been quick to cast the outcome as an indication that abortion, and more specifically the fact that the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, will be a major factor in the Democrats' favor in the midterms. Politico, for instance, characterized the result as a political earthquake with the potential to reshape the entire midterm campaign. I agree with the substance of this article that is not the case. I did make a video this morning, and I linked the abortion issue to the narrowing in generic congressional ballot polling. We have to understand, though, that the narrowing is only a couple of points. When you are close to 50-50 to begin with, when the GOP is leading by an average of 2.5, and now basically at a 50-50 sum game, we're not talking about an enormous proportion of the electorate. We're talking about a couple million voters. That is enough to throw multiple elections. It's not going to change the fact that the GOP takes the House. That'll obviously happen. But there were some people that were rambling at me earlier this morning talking about how I was dead wrong and nobody cares about abortion as an issue. It doesn't matter if it's only 2% of the population, it still has an impact on the outcome. That is how it does matter. How it does not matter is how this particular article points it out. The fact that Kansas defeated the measure does not mean that that happens in other states. Kansas, while it is a red state, is not the most red. While it's reasonably religious, it's by no means the most religious. Go to Alabama or something for that. It does not necessarily mean that it's a bellwether. I do agree with the sum and substance of that particular article, even if it is, again, from the National Review. Seeing Sights, Governor DeSantis says America's #1 adversary is China. Your thoughts? I agree. China is definitely a bigger adversary than Russia, although we pretend otherwise. Richard Lewis, $20, no comment. Thank you very much. No. X Summer is correct. It was FDR that made the Great Depression so bad. He did it on purpose, too, to keep getting reelected. You make things shitty for people, hide the fact that you made them shitty, and then you give them welfare breadcrumbs to keep them alive, and you get reelected. It's almost like he was a socialist, like he pointed out multiple times. Now I would like to talk about the hypocrisy of the Grinner case. There's an MSNBC post there. Again, links in the description to all of these things. Where are the male athletes, says MSNBC, standing up for WNBA superstar Brittany Grinner? Oh my God, male athletes aren't red in the face about the fact that she brought a bunch of drugs to a foreign country and ended up getting imprisoned for 9 years by the Russians as the result. And I pointed out, and I'll keep pointing it out, where are the liberals standing up for the thousands of people in jail for drug trafficking, for taking their in-state legal pot products over state lines? Fuck, I think, was it Cheech or Chong at one time had some bongs in the back of his car and almost went to jail for an extended period for trafficking under federal law because he went across state lines to sell fucking bongs. It's miserably stupid. It makes no sense. For instance, you're in a medical marijuana state. You're from Montana. And you smoke cannabis because you've got, multiple sclerosis, you have terrible arthritis, schizophrenia, whatever the fuck you have, you take weed for it. And you go to a state where weed is not legal, and you take it across the border with you. You can end up with felony charges for this. I don't see anything from the Biden administration about the importance of getting rid of those laws. We have tens of thousands of people in prison for using substances that in their own home state may be perfectly legal, or at the very least, the cops look the other way. And we're worried about one person. Why? Because they happen to be in basketball. That's really what this is about. It's a celebrity, a minor celebrity, I would add. Oh my God, a famous person got imprisoned by a country that we're using for propaganda. Well, we better keep doing the propaganda thing. This is great. I bet Biden is glad that Grinner is in a prison right now. Apparently, they're going to do a DNA test to determine whether it's a male or female prison that Grinner goes to. Not going to go over too well, I think, with the other inmates. I think that gulag is going to be a difficult time, and good riddance. Keep Grinner there for the whole 9 years. Just give her or whatever additional charges. Rid us of the stupidity of this individual who hates the United States so much, but will probably be kissing the ground when the plane lands after there's a probably inevitable trade deal. Biden talking about trading fucking drug lords and weapons smugglers and people that are actually violent for someone who throws a ball for a living. This is goddamn nuts. And we've gone a long time since Ronald Reagan saying, no, fuck you, I'm not going to negotiate with terrorists, right? Half the people that are so worried about Grinner going to the gulag didn't even know who Grinner was until this happened. And then only because the legacy media said, well, it involves Russia. This is good for the Russia hoax. We see Russia bad. Russia just wants to jail our basketball stars because they're worse at sports than us and don't get as many Olympic medals. That's obviously what it is. Putin is just trying to show up Biden. But big, strong Biden is going to take him behind the woodshed with a deal that ensures Grinner's release. Yeah, it also ensures the release of somebody who ran guns to Colombian cartels, possibly, or somebody who's a literal assassin. But I'm sure we're getting ours in that trade now, aren't we? It's just Biden's way of really sticking the knife in the back of the United States. Should just let Grinner rot. I thought that was so funny, though. And by the way, hippie mom herself, Marianne Williamson, former Dem candidate, came in like 7th place in the primaries in 2016, I think it was. Hippie grandma who replies to me fairly regularly because I'm constantly dragging her for saying stupid hippie grandma things like, Crystal Child, like, oh my God, and legalize this, but make, hate speech should be illegal. And Biden needs to do more. He needs to be more socialistic. And Donald Trump is a terrorist. Weird shit. Actually made a good point. She's probably the only political figure I've seen actually pointing out the hypocrisy. And she's a lifelong Democrat. Peyton Walter, doesn't anybody watch Midnight Express anymore? I have no clue what that is. Am I supposed to? Thanks for the $50, though. That'll buy a lot of diapers. Miami Cuz, if extreme pro-life positions cost Republicans some midterm elections, will Republicans make adjustments to ensure success in 2024? Well, they might have enough of a mentality to do that. So far, the Dems certainly aren't doing that over CRT, so we'll see if they're more or less stubborn. David Dow sent $2.79 Canadian. No comment, thank you. Mr. Twisted Frenzy. Random question, but are grenades and other forms of explosives constitutional? Oh, you can buy grenades if you can find someone willing to sell them, but you have to get a $200 tax stamp on each one. You can get a grenade launcher for your weapon. I think that needs a tax stamp too. So expensive, but yes, it is legal. I think you have to have an explosive devices permit as well. Kind of makes sense with explosive material, just to tell the truth. Bobcat, to be fair, that arms dealer helped more wounded vets than the VA did. At least he gave them a ride home. So yeah, Brittany Grinner, Jesus. And then the last news story here. This one's just for fun. Paul Krugman was posting the other day. Conversation overheard at supermarket meat counter. So he's giving you a pose for this particular thing. Customer, meat just keeps getting more expensive. Butcher, actually, prices have been coming down. He's gotten ratioed over this, obviously. It's almost self-satirical. I posted, the actually meme with the squinty-eyed dude who's clearly balding and pockmarked and shit, has big buck teeth. So at least in the teeth, looks similar to me, I suppose. I posted that on there and in front of a meat counter there, and I thought it's like, this is literally at this point. The meat prices are not going down. I think you're thinking of gas prices. But why are the gas prices going down? And I don't mean diesel. I mean the gas that regular automobiles use. Oh, that's right. It's because Biden has put in a gas tax holiday and decided to siphon oil from the strategic reserves that are really meant for emergencies of a military nature. It was never meant to be a gas piggy bank. Trump had them basically topped off over and over again, and now Biden's I don't know, probably drained half of it off by now. If we end up in a domestic emergency situation, then Biden's going to have a real hard time when people run out of basic fuel necessities. Light Guru, update on code 0010110. They have a book now. Trippy. I remember that being mentioned in the context of my debate with Richard Spencer. That's quite funny. The Grizzly, the Category 10 chimp out that the evangelocons over abortion law is hilarious. I remember the same thing when gay marriage was legalized. Lol, are we going back to 1984 moral majority, guys? Yeah, it was funny. I thought Satan was supposed to pop out of the ground at that point. They're still trying to conflate that, by the way, with the fact that you've got like drag queen story hour and stuff. As though they're linked. A straight dude in drag, some pervert is trying to talk to little kids at the library. Somehow this has something to do with state property contracts. I don't know. I think there's some confusion from certain right-wingers on this particular issue. Just saying. Roger Dodger. GOP will lose badly if they go after gay marriage. Yeah, it'd be a problem. You got to realize on abortion, it was more 50-50. While the average person wants it legal, they also want it more restricted. They don't want Northam abortion. There isn't really a public debate, though, about the legality of same-sex marriage. Nobody really cares anymore. It's like 70% approval of it at this point. Only a handful of, and not even all of the more religious Christians oppose it at this point. Why even have a public debate? There's no debate to be had. The issue has been effectively settled. Doofily moofily hypocrites want weed to be legal across national lines, but want to jail you for crossing state lines with hollow-tip bullets. Yeah, there's some hypocrisy there. And ammunition is actually protected by a constitutional amendment. Roger Dodger, don't underestimate normies' ignorance. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to check these polls. I'm making sure that you're loyal to Clankdom by doing the polls. I've got several chats here on Rumble. I'll try to read them. I think they're Joker 1, when you said that General Ripper was right. Hi, Kitty. I thought you are now denying your bodily essences. Lol. Bro, what? Is Sleazy okay? Not sure if I missed something, but there was no Sleazy stream. I'm going through withdrawals. Love you, Sticks. I think that he got a strike and therefore cannot stream at the moment. Let's see. God, I hate this. Joker, somebody contact Rumble and get them to fucking solve this. It's been months. Joker 1, Midnight Express was the prison horror film of the late 70s. It was financed by the Greek government to screw the Turkish tourist industry, and it worked. No Watcher 63. Houston had a gun buyout, 800 purchased, 62 were ghost guns. Police had to buy them because they didn't think to make that exclusion. Guy made $3,000 from it. Yes, I talked about that in the live stream on Friday, I think it was. That was really good. Ultimate trolling on level red. Cha-ching. Roger Dodger, don't know. Oh, I already read that. By the way, he has to claim that on his taxes, so the government gets some of it back. The government gets half of his ghost gun revenue, sadly. And they'll be checking because, of course, that was a registered buyout. So I would encourage him to file that on his taxes. Be very careful. You know that they're going to audit you, dude. Come on. So, yeah. How many people are watching? Yeah, we've got almost 4,000 watching cross-platform at the moment. I will keep it a little bit short today, but first we'll go back to these polls. I think I have to refresh these. Oh, yeah, Jesus, there's a lot more votes now. In the first poll, and by the way, again, links in the description, cross-platform, please do participate and share them out to get greater participation on other platforms. I'm trying to do as many clankers as possible in these polls. If I can get 5,000 people to vote in them, much bigger sample size. We're already at the kind of sample size you can get with political polls. I want it bigger. I want it to be as accurate as possible. Among clankers, specifically, Donald Trump has almost 86% of the collective share of votes if he's on the ballot, and there's a second poll for that reason. DeSantis is at 11.6%. Other is approaching 2%, and then nobody else really has a pulse. By the way, 2 people voted for Chris Christie. I'm really interested in who those were. Now watch 5 or 6 people vote for him as a troll. But so yes, Donald Trump is way out ahead with about 2,000 votes in. Assuming he is on the ballot, he's clearly the clank candidate, which is not a surprise to me. What is perhaps more surprising is that if he is not on the ballot, Rand Paul is almost even with Ron DeSantis. They are within 10 points. DeSantis has about 50%. Rand Paul is going up towards 44, actually, at the time. and other gets about 4.3%. And again, not really a pulse for anyone else. Some people did criticize me for leaving Kristi Noem off of this particular poll. I figured that she hasn't really made any moves regardless of what happens with Trump. We know that Haley is thinking about it. We know Pence clearly is. Ted Cruz probably sits out if Trump isn't there, but he hasn't pledged yet. We know DeSantis may be interested, although he has also insinuated he'll be out if Trump is. Christie, while he's a non-entity in my opinion, he has expressed interest. One thing that people also criticized is that Rand Paul's not on the first poll. That's because of all of these people. He's the one that has made it absolutely clear that if Trump is in the running, Rand Paul does intend to sit it out, which I think is wise. It'd be interesting if DeSantis tried to run against Trump and see what happens. I think you'd see DeSantis would get dogpiled by Rand and by others, but he would have probably Pence aboard, which would be funny. Imagine that Ron DeSantis runs and Mike Pence ends up his running mate. Can you imagine? Mike Pence ends up VP under 2 successive administrations. Weirder things have happened. I'm definitely looking forward to the midterm election. It's going to be one for the ages. And then on to 2024, it'll be hilarious. Yes, Rand Paul is almost within 5 points of DeSantis, assuming that Trump does not run. It is extremely close here. That's very interesting. I know that there's more support for Rand among clankers than most audiences out there. But I didn't expect it to be that close, though. DeSantis just fell under 50% as I was talking, actually. Batman, thoughts on the Scorpions? Buy some more diapers, Stickman. Yeah, the diaper fund is getting almost too large. I'll have to find some other baby stuff to buy. Or just get energy drinks and lots of citrus. Of course, I put half a lime's juice in every one that I drink now during my live streams. I like the Scorpions. Really nice band. Pretty great metal. Thinking about metal, I'm going to kickstart my heart. Yeah, Eric A. AOC may run in 24. Yeah, but this is just for the Republicans. I will do a Dem poll. Maybe I'll do that for tomorrow's live stream or something. For what it's worth, I mean, the channel isn't exactly loaded with Democrats. I'm assuming that the demographic isn't there for anyone to really care. Or I'll just do like, which Dem candidate do you expect to win the nomination? Yeah, that's probably a better idea. I'll do that. Rider of the Metal Horse. Can the federal government enforce any laws that are not in the Constitution? If so, should they be allowed to? And I voted for Paul in the poll. They can enforce any law that a judiciary has not injuncted. That's the problem. If there's no plaintiff and if there's no case that's gone before a court and been taken up by the court and been successfully decided in the favor of the plaintiff, the government can violate the Constitution at a whim. Really regrettable. I think we need to expand the Constitution and make its language far more plain. For instance, the Second Amendment should be tacked onto. Yes, indeed, this covers the right of individual civilians to own whatever weapons they want. No, there's no limit on the number of weapons. No, you can't tax the ammo out of existence. No, you can't prevent people from selling their weapons. And stuff that you have to be very legalistic. I don't know why the founders weren't more in tune to this, because New Englanders especially loved suing each other in the 1700s. You'd think they would have been more on the ball. If there was any failing that Jefferson and Franklin and Patrick Henry and all these people had, it was that they didn't go far enough with the U.S. Constitution. If they had just been more wordy, if they hadn't run out of paper because of its cost back then, they're like, ah, shit. You know, Ben Franklin, he had the shits the other night. He had too much wine during his orgy, and he used up all of our paper. We've only got a few pages left. I guess we have to keep this terse. Maybe that's why they wrote in such small lettering on the U.S. Constitution. Guns with guns. I wish you guys would stop pretending that everyone who criticizes abortion is an evangelicon. That's not what I'm saying. But there's certainly an overlap, isn't there? The majority of people who would want it banned presumably do so for religious and moral reasons. Not just because, not for any other reason. It's got to be 70, 80% of them. So there is a huge overlap, is all I'm saying. And I would say that is a very dangerous position for the GOP to appear to be taking when one of the biggest gifts that they've been given in past months is that on Roe v. Wade, the Democrats overstretched. They caused the entire issue with Virginia and with Northam and with their 9-month abortion shtick. They alienated the majority of the U.S. public with their fanaticism on abortion. You had a good thing going. Look, in half the states, you already could get an abortion, at least through the first trimester. It was legal. It was effective. Nobody had really a problem. It became an issue at times, but it wasn't a national issue. You forced it, leftoids. You caused Roe v. Wade to die in tune with Dobbs. This is where Roberts differentiated on it from the other 5 justices on the court, because you pushed the issue. And so the right wing responded by saying, okay, well, I mean, technically Roe v. Wade makes abortion legal, but it doesn't say there's any indefinite particular moment of legality. So we're going to lower it to 8 weeks or 6 weeks or something. Well, it's still legal. It's just we're restricting it further, thus triggering the case. But now the right wing risks doing the same thing by trying to ban it outright. Even when a woman's life is in danger in some cases, you are alienating large swaths of the public. Most people do not want it illegal. So yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Battle Elf, how about Yola Tango or Stereo Lab? I don't know. Antonio DeLora, would Trump take South Dakota governor as VP? Possible. Noam, I'm sure, is on a list of people he would consider. I'm hoping Rand Paul tops the list, though. Ill Message 77 sent $20 without a comment. Thank you very much. Fire down below. Do you think Hitler escaped to South America after World War II? It is possible, and I'll tell you why. The premier evidence for his death is a piece of jawbone. It was later shown that it didn't belong even to a male. The Russians claim that they cremated the body. They provided that particular piece of dentition, and it turned out that it wasn't actually an adult male human. So who did they cremate? And why is the question. I think that he did successfully escape. I think that's likely. And to cover up that fact, because they were absolutely taken unaware, they probably didn't initially know how he escaped at all. And they didn't want to admit to the American public especially, hey, by the way, all those Nazis, a lot of them are escaping on rat lines to other countries, and we're not able to find them all. If Mengele could get out, don't you think that Adolf could? I think it's likely. I think he got to Argentina. There are anecdotal tales about him having been there and in Brazil and possibly Ecuador for some time. And then he died supposedly in the 50s or maybe in the 70s. The accounts differ. It's plausible. We don't have any evidence that he's dead. In the absence of that evidence, if we do have at least some tangential evidence and claims that he did make it to Argentina, and we know that other Nazis did, we know that plenty of SS troopers and shit, they were sailing U-boats for the better part of a year down into Argentina, and the Argentinians wouldn't deport them, and they scattered out all across Brazil and places like that. Why not? If the piece of dentition that was used as proof, hey, look, the evil dude's dead, wasn't really him, the Russians clearly didn't recover a body. They wouldn't have used. They wouldn't have given. I think that in the Russian case, they realized that he had left. Probably. Now he might have been blown to smithereens and incinerated for all we know, but he might have escaped. And the Russians got there to the Führer bunker, and they said, "Oh shit! They're telling us Hitler killed himself, and they summarily got rid of him, but we can't really prove this is him. Joseph Stalin is going to kill us if we don't come back with some proof that the evil dude is dead and it's finally all over." Stalin is going to put our whole fucking lineage in a goddamn gulag. My kids will be tortured to death. I will be raped to death by elephants. They're going to have my wife strung up upside down and use her as a human piñata. Well, here we found some teeth in the wreckage. It's pretty much we talked to his dentist. Don't worry, it's actually him. And of course, it wasn't. And I think that's what happened. They were terrified of Stalin's reaction if they didn't get him. The American politicians probably coordinated with the Russians. The Russians, I'm assuming, told the Americans, look, we don't know where Adolf is. This is a big problem. And the American leadership said, hush, don't say anything. He's probably just going to go to South America. He knows if he appears in public, he's dead immediately. Let's just keep an eye on him and hope that he shuts up. We've got too many Nazis in the U.S. space program right now to, come on, can't we just have a Cold War together and stop shooting for a while and just pretend that we want to shoot each other? I have a feeling that that's what happened. Sorry for the extended rant there, but I do have some opinions, as you'll know. Josh Bearden, get Google Translate, turns Dutch articles into English. Yes, but it doesn't do the greatest job of that. So yes, to be clear, I do believe that it is plausible, much like with Mengele and others escaping, some of them never getting caught. Yes, it's possible. Plenty of people down in Argentina would have been willing to give him shelter, and he presumably would have disappeared with chests full of treasure and shit like that. So, I mean, it's not like he wouldn't have been able to repay his hosts. Mitch James, will China invade Taiwan? What's your predictions in the future? I'm hopeful that they will not. I think that they will lose if they do, but it'll be a bloody massacre. There are ways to stop any possibility of them invading, none of which are actually being endorsed by the U.S. government, because it's basically just their way of excusing more arms dealing. Joe Nerfherder, socialists should love the idea that the government should give an AR-15 and a handgun to every American. Can I get something better than an AR-15? Can I get an M14 or something? Fuck the AR-15, too small a bullet. I want something that'll kill a bear. Reliably, I mean. Battle Elf Sticks, are you into butt rock? I don't know what that is. BB, I am feeling a bit black-pilled on the midterms, not gonna lie. Don't get black-pilled, get active. Go knock on 2 or 3 doors, and you've done your part. Batman, new proof says Hitler escaped to South America and had painted himself orange. Some CNN hack. I half expect that. By the way, no more super chats, please. I do hear the baby beginning to get awake up there and probably needs milk. Zen Toaster, Sticks, have you heard of the Amber Room? No, I have not. I am right. What exactly is a neocon and neoliberal, and what is that your definition or the textbook definition? I use it generally for the old wave, like 90s and 80s consensus establishment within the parties in a partisan sense more than anything else. That's not fully textbook, but it does overlap. Skycloud Rain, did the Inflation Reduction Act pass? I heard Comrade Sanders didn't like the bill. Did he vote yes or no? Oh, he'll do what he's told. I don't know if it's passed yet. Nail Bomb Politics. Have you heard about DeSantis suspending the Florida state attorney for neglect of duty? Yes, and I talked about that yesterday. And I need to go off here because the baby is beginning to chuff. But we do have 2 more on Rumble really quick. Noel Watcher 63. Abortion should be banned for no other reason than the left's obvious mission to use it as population control. Look it up, who mostly will get an abortion. Yeah, I mean, that was the goal of Planned Parenthood initially, and Sanger. It is true. Writer of the Metal Horse, I agree with expanding the constitutional restrictions, but let me rephrase. Can the federal government make laws that don't need to amend constitutional amendments through the official process and enforce? Yes, again, unless the judiciary steps in, anything they do is effectively legal on its nose, unfortunately. And that's about all. Make sure to do those polls. So if you haven't already, take those links in the description cross-platform. That is about all. Peace out.